Welcome back to Unstrapped. My name is Rachel. And before we go any further, if you haven't watched part 1 of this video, I will link it here. Watch part 1 first and then come back and watch this video, because this video will make a lot more sense once you've learned the fundamentals that I laid out in that video. So we will start off by going over the 3 requirements to being successful with sinking funds, and later on in the video, I will answer the burning questions you may have regarding sinking funds. Requirement number 1. You must have money left over at the end of each month in order to allocate to your sinking funds. Sinking funds are essentially savings, so you must be in a position to save money at the end of each month in order for this method to work for you. And don't feel like you need to have a ton of money left over at the end of each month, just enough that will help you reach your sinking fund goals. And if you're living paycheck to paycheck, your priority should not be building sinking funds because you are in a financial emergency. Your priority needs to be lowering your expenses or increasing your income in order to get afloat. If you need some ideas for how to save money fast so that you can start your sinking funds, I made 2 videos with over 15 great ideas for how to save money fast. I will link them in the cards above and in the description box below, so be sure to check those out. Requirement number 2, you must live on a budget. Now, if you've been on my channel for any length of time, you know that I'm always talking about the importance of budgeting. And I believe that you cannot win with money if you do not have a budget. You won't have a sinking fund if you haven't planned for that in your budget. And if you haven't planned to save that money, trust me, you will not. So be sure to include your sinking funds in your budget. And if you need help starting a budget, I also made a video about why you need a budget and how to start one. So I will also link that in the cards above and in the description box below. Requirement number 3, you must be financially disciplined. By that I mean, you must be disciplined enough to not spend your sinking fund savings on other purchases. The reason you started a sinking fund is to save for a specific reason. So if you're constantly taking money out of your sinking funds to order takeout, you will not make any progress with your sinking funds. Building sinking funds takes discipline, and you have to practice delayed gratification. Now, I know life happens, but try your best to not touch your sinking fund savings except for the exact reason you were saving. Now, before I get into answering your questions, if this video has been helpful to you so far, please give it a thumbs up for the YouTube algorithm, and also consider subscribing so that we can continue to grow this amazing Unstrapped community. So what is the difference between a sinking fund and an emergency fund? Emergency funds and sinking funds are very different, and the difference is in their purpose. So an emergency fund is money that is meant to be spent for unexpected expenses, such as a car accident or a medical emergency. So think of it like insurance. You have insurance, but you hope you never have to touch it. So that's the same thing with emergency funds. You have this savings, but you hope you never have to touch it. But if an emergency happens, you're very happy that you have it. Sinking funds are savings that are meant to protect your budget from expected expenses, such as birthday gifts or holidays. Now, this is money that is meant to be spent, and that's what makes sinking funds so much fun. And it also keeps you from using credit cards for these purchases. Now, let's be clear, you need both of these funds. But if you do not have an emergency fund, you should not be trying to build sinking funds right now. You need to focus on building your emergency fund first. Even a $1,000 emergency fund is better than nothing. What is the difference between sinking funds and ordinary savings? Your regular savings is meant to be built up, not taken away from. Your regular savings is your primary tool for building wealth and increasing your net worth, so you should not be taking money out of your regular savings at all. That is what sinking funds are for. They are meant to be spent. What are some ways to fund your sinking funds? You can budget for it with your monthly income. You can use any tax refunds. You can use any bonuses you get from work or monetary gift that you received. Or you could go on a no spend challenge, which means you would not spend money in a certain area so that you can use that money to build up your sinking funds. Where should I keep my sinking funds? I recommend having all of your sinking funds in one bank account, specifically a high yield savings account. And from that one account, you can divvy up all of your sinking funds into buckets. I personally have my high yield savings account with Ally Bank, but there's also Capital One 360 and many others. So just do your own research to find one that works best for you. What I personally love about Ally Bank is that you can have separate buckets for your sinking funds. So you can have a separate bucket for Christmas, a separate bucket for house maintenance, and a separate bucket for pets, or however many sinking funds you have. And then you can set a monetary goal for how much you want in that sinking fund, and then a time frame for when you want to meet that goal, which is so helpful. Now, if you'd rather save your sinking funds in cash, you can use cash envelopes. And there are apps that help you keep track of your sinking funds, such as Simple Budgets and EveryDollar. How many sinking funds do you need? Sinking funds are very personal and they will be different from person to person, but that is totally fine. You get to decide what your financial priorities are. Once you see the power of sinking funds, you may become addicted to them, but try to limit your sinking funds to the amount that you can easily fund and easily keep track of. When should you start a sinking fund? You can start your sinking fund at any time, but keep in mind, the longer you wait to start your sinking fund, the more money you will have to save each month in order to meet your goal. So say for example, you want to save a Christmas sinking fund, but it's October. You're going to have to save a lot more money each month in order to meet your goal in December than if you would have started your sinking fund in January. So try to plan ahead. I love sinking funds because they give you a sense of control over your finances, and they also help you to avoid using credit cards for these expected purchases, which is always a win in my book. Now, I hope this two-part series on sinking funds has been helpful for you. And I want you to comment down below, what sinking funds do you have or you want to start? Now, if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up and consider subscribing. Bye for now.